Welcome to a special bonus episode of Late of the Rings. My name's John, and even in their mighty company, I shall not now be ashamed. It is my good friend Emery.
Hello, John.
Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm very well. That was a very poignant and suitable quote to use for this episode, I believe.
Yeah, indeed. So the reason why we're doing a little extra bonus episode, this is not going to be a full Late of the Rings episode where we discuss cards or adventures. Basically, it has been a little while, to say the least, since we have recorded. I mean, we have released an episode relatively recently, but it's been a while since we recorded, and there's been a lot of Lord of the Rings news, and we thought it would be a good idea to maybe just quickly jump on the mic, do a short episode to cover all the news, because if we save it for the next episode, by the time that is recorded and edited, that news is old news.
And we would require an extended edition length episode.
Unprecedented. So there has been lots of Lord of the Rings news to do with shows and films and the game. But what I would like to start with is I think we need to acknowledge the passing of a great actor in Bernard Hill, who, of course, played King Theoden in the Lord of the Rings films. So, yeah, it was a little while ago now. I think it was in April or May that he passed away. And
it's in May, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, we won't dwell on it, but I do think we will pay tribute to this man, because I think everyone is aware that we really love Theoden as a character, and Bernard Hill really, really captured him so well on screen.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've said on the podcast before that Theoden's journey, certainly in the films, was possibly my favourite out of anybody. So obviously when I read the book, and there's so many amazing stories, of course. But yeah, I think he brought so much to that character. He was so perfect for it, wasn't he?
Yeah, really.
He just made it his own. And, he's of that stock, isn't he? Where he's got that sort of gravitas. A hugely versatile actor anyway, when you look through his career. But yeah, I think in my mind's eye, I kind of, sometimes, you read a book, of course, and if there's an adaptation, you see that, and how it looks is very different to what you imagine. And we've spoken about this kind of thing before. I find it quite difficult now to separate the image of Theoden in any way from Bernard Hill's portrayal, to be honest, because it just seems so perfect and so right. That was a great bit of casting, and of course he just did a magnificent job of it, didn't he?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more about how you say, you can't separate. I think if we ever get round to rereading Lord of the Rings, which we've mentioned once or twice, we really should.
Yeah.
I think
we will.
I think it will be very, very hard to not see Bernard Hill's face in our mind's eye when reading. Yeah. I think. Well, we both said how much the character of Theoden is so important to us in the story of Lord of the Rings, and I think for me, I would say Theoden is he's the human heart in the center of Lord of the Rings. I mean, there are other men in the story, but what King Theoden has to overcome in his personal journey is not like any like Aragorn or Boromir or Denethor has to overcome. He's really just holding it together. And I think the way that Bernard Hill portrayed that, a whole array of emotions, from burying his son to his emotional speeches to Eowyn that she's not being left behind, that he's passing on the kingdom to her. And it's I get goosebumps just thinking about it, of course.
So am I, yeah. No, I think that's absolutely it. I think we've spoken before, haven't we, about the sort of mirror of Theoden's journey and Denethor's. And they're quite similar in that they're from not quite broken houses, but houses that have seen sort of better days under a lot of threat.
Yeah.
And they both lost sons.
Yeah.
And one sort of falls into darkness and the other one does everything he can in the time. Well, as for the film, the quote from the film, which is, all we have to do is decide what to do with the time given to us, and that's exactly what he embodies, isn't it? I think he has so many great lines in it as well, doesn't he? So the one that you said in the at the very end of his journey, when he say he won't be that's such a goosebump line, isn't it? When he talks about his forebears, that line we spoke about before, I think some episodes ago, about no parents have to bury their child. It's obviously extremely poignant.
So powerful. And what is the one where is it what can men do against such reckless hate? He says that to Aragorn, I think, when Helm's Deep is almost completely overrun. It's a level of despair, but he still has belief and pride, and the way that Bernard Hill delivers those lines, and he questions Aragorn, doesn't he? He says, why should we ride out? I can't remember the exact line, but he's like, is it for death and glory? And then Aragorn says, no, it's for Rohan, it's for your people. And I think that's when he comes back with the horn of Helm Hammerhand will sound in the deep one last time, and then Gimli's off.
But absolutely, and he gives he really belts it out.
He really gives that a go.
but that's exactly it, isn't it? It's like he says later it wasn't Theoden, it was Aragorn who, saved, because he needed that help. But then but he used it, like he listened. And then that other line which comes to mind is when they don't have enough men, they feel, before they're going to fight for Gondor. And one of his men says, we don't have enough men. And he says, no, we don't. But we'll meet them in battle, none for less. And that's such a, such a kind of like pride thing, isn't it? Everyone puffs out their chest and we're going to do this anyway. And that's the journey he's been on, and it's, his mind is completely clear. And it's such a, it's a beautiful journey. And the way it's portrayed by him is just, like you said, absolutely perfect. And it was quite interesting to see him, because I had no idea he was going to be in it. I avoided all the hype. And so it was very pleasing to see
the Bernard Hill hype.
The Hill hype, as they called it. But I didn't. I guess that was before. Obviously, the internet was around, but not as prevalent as it would be now, and every single casting choice is known 2 years before the thing comes out. But he was somebody for our generation, I think, he was one of those actors who was just, you might not have known his name for a while, but he was always around and you just recognized it.
Absolutely.
And he could be a lead guy and a character actor, so one of that rare breed. I think the first time I saw him was probably in Shirley Valentine.
Oh, yeah.
I think, and it's such a brilliant film that. I've not seen that for years. It's probably, I'm not sure, would that have been popular outside the UK, do you think, that film?
It's very hard for me to answer that.
Yeah, it's hard. But you never know. It's weird, isn't it? The things that seem quintessentially British, you'd think would never cross over. Sometimes they absolutely do, and it's just very hard to figure out how or why. But for people who don't know, that's a film about a kind of slightly downtrodden housewife who's just had enough of her slightly annoying husband, played by Bernard Hill, who's very, what's his like? He's not in it for long, but his scenes are so memorable. I think that was the first time I saw him. Then a few years, I remember when I was in my teens, they showed. I've never seen the original, but I saw the Boys from the Black Stuff.
Boys from the Black Stuff. That's what I was going to say as well. I mean, it was on when we were very young, but I think it was obviously shown again later.
Yeah, I didn't see it. Yeah, exactly. And it was the episode. And that's about 5 or 6 guys in Liverpool, I think it was, in the early 80s, where the economy's just kind of died and they're trying to work basically. And
gives a job.
Yeah, that's it. That was the famous line, which kind of it seeped into the culture, didn't it? And it was his episode that really was the one that stuck in my head. And it was essentially like 5 or 6 mini plays, wasn't it? Like they used to do on, I guess, the glory days of British television. Sound too old. And he was brilliant in that. And he was in I, Claudius, which is one of my absolute favourite programmes of all time. When he was quite young, I think, probably in that. He's a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, just very sad news.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad that we had this opportunity just to pay our respects, as you say.
No, that's great. No, but it's not great. It's sad. But it is great that we have this opportunity. We have this platform,
absolutely,
in which to do so. So this is a news roundup. So we'll move swiftly on. So in other news, we have had a flurry of new Lord of the Rings. What should we call it? Media. films and television. So that there are three things I want to talk about. One, The Rings of Power is back. In fact, I think it's back today.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Okay. So I believe it's we're recording this on 24th of August, and I think it is literally released today. So hopefully it won't take me long to edit this, and we'll pump it out, and it won't seem like old news. I'm not that excited.
No, I think when the first series came out, I think we touched on this as well, which was that, if you imagine this was 15 years ago, that when the first one was coming out, if, say, it would have been a massive deal, a massive fanfare. And actually, when they announced it, this is $1 billion show or whatever, there was this big thing. But then by the time it had come out, I'm not sure how much excitement there really was for it. And I think the fact I didn't even know the second series was coming out until you just mentioned it, that it was today. I didn't even know about the second series till you told me recently, and I looked up for a trailer. So that tells you something, I think. So I mean, we didn't think too much of the first.
That's an understatement. I really thought it was poor. I mean, I will watch it. I mean, I think it would be remiss of someone who records the Lord of the Rings podcast to not pay attention to what else is happening in the Lord of the Rings universe, if you like. But I'm just.
But is it even that though? That's what gets me. Is it even that? It's like you've got, what is it? The appendices, right? They're trying to make long, like 10 hours worth, 2 series of stuff from a few pages in an appendices of Lord of the Rings.
And making stuff up, which is, I think if they were just making stories from appendices, it might be okay. It might be okay, but they're just making. Now, I have some. Look, I'm not going to judge the second series yet. I will judge the first series because I watched it and I didn't like it. But I'm not going to judge the second series. The showrunners have said, we understand the mistakes we made in the first series, and please stick with us, and we will hopefully we'll rectify things and make things right. Now, I will give them a chance, because why not? It's just a television show. We'll just watch it. But in the trailer, there's a few things which already get my back up. And
oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So right, for a start, I don't know if this is actually in the trailer, but this has been quite heavily publicized, is they've put Tom Bombadil in it. Now, I'm not against Tom Bombadil.
Have they? Yeah. I don't remember. Maybe I just didn't recognize him from the trailer.
I'm not sure he is in the trailer, but it is publicized that Tom Bombadil's going to be featuring. Now, what is in the trailer, which relates to Tom Bombadil in the book, are the Barrow Wights. Now, the Barrow Wights were, and if you've forgotten, because they're not featured in Peter Jackson's films. So the Barrow Wights they're very, very scary, actually. They're one of the scariest bits in the first book, Fellowship of the Ring. They are these wraith-like creatures that live in the Barrow Downs. And forgive me if I misremember, how they come into being, but I believe they are ordered to the Barrow Downs by the Witch King of Angmar. So the main ring wraith says, you go and live over there and protect this area. And they are these spirits, and the hobbits get captured by them.
That's right.
Just after the Tom Bombadil scene. And it's really quite scary, that it's been quite a normal adventure to this point. They've seen some elves, they've met happy Tom Bombadil, who's been dancing around.
Totally normal.
Yeah,
like
totally
what happens to you and I taking a stroll in the English countryside. some elves, some giant magical creature. Barrows? And the funny thing is, barrows actually exist.
Yeah, exactly. So they get captured by the Barrow Wights, and it's scary. And Tom Bombadil rescues them. Spoilers.
Yes. Sorry.
And then from the Barrow Downs, I believe that's where the hobbits get their swords from, apart from Sting, of course. Sting's not a hobbit. He's the singer with the Police. His axe is more of an axe. His big bass guitar. But I think that there is an armory. Oh, maybe I'm completely misremembering it, but I believe there's a Numenorian armory in the Barrow Downs. And that's where the hobbits get their swords from. Now, okay, bring this full circle back to the Rings of Power. I am very, very nervous that the showrunners have just gone, hey, you know that stuff that wasn't in the films? That everyone talks about how Tom Bombadil wasn't featured in the films and the Barrow Wights weren't featured in the films. Well, guess what, guys? We've put them in the TV show. It's like, yeah, but you don't have to.
No, so this is... Okay, so two things on that. First of all, I think that scene which you're referring to, I think Peter Jackson, didn't he basically put that in the Hobbit film in a different... It was like one of some cave, a giant's cave or something, where they all found...
you're thinking... No, isn't that the Goblin King's cave? Then they have weapons in there? And then there's a crack at the back. They find the weapons in there, and I can't remember.
I can't remember the film now, to be honest. No. Anyway, that was one thing. But yes, absolutely. So I think we spoke about this before when talking about things like, like some of the Star Wars stuff, like Solo, I think I mentioned before, where it's like, what do we possibly know?
I've got some Star Wars stuff to come on to in a minute. But yes, carry on. Yeah, no,
but
because
it was like that, yeah.
You're already touching on one of the things which is already getting my back up.
Okay. Yeah, so it's like, yeah, what do we possibly know? What can we possibly put in? Let's put that in. And to me, that really just takes away so much. And this is another point I want to make from seeing the trailer, is it removes so much of the mystery of things and makes the world much smaller if you put all of that stuff into short form piece. And then I don't know. I don't like to judge. I know that people watch trailers and write reams and reams of essays about them and all this stuff, which doesn't make any sense to me. But just watching the trailer, just seeing what was in it, I guess one thing that bothered me was just seeing this kind of humanized form of Sauron, kind of seemingly battling with Galadriel, and it's like you've taken away two of the most mysterious characters in the entire thing.
Yeah.
And they're just having like hand fights, sword fights, or whatever. It's just I don't know. It just seems
it doesn't
something
feel right.
Turned, a dial got turned within me, within my heart, downwards when I saw that. It's like, oh no, come on.
Well, the weird thing is,
just an evil guy.
Yeah, no, exactly. The thing is, what they have done. I mean, I don't know how well you know the Appendices or Unfinished Tales, but the story that Tolkien came up with of how Sauron was able to forge the One Ring is that actually he infiltrated the elves and he lived amongst them. Okay,
that's right,
and that's how he was able to forge the One Ring in secret. And it looks, from what I've seen in the trailer, that's what they're showing. They're going to show Sauron is now. It's going to be played by two actors, I think, and then he'll have taken an elvish form, and he will be. So it looks like they are actually focusing a bit more on what Tolkien's vision was, but it seems, I don't know, why not just do that in the first series rather than have this weird thing of like, who's Sauron?
Yeah, exactly. Which you didn't make clear that's what it was about at all.
No,
actually,
no.
And it was, there was something. I think I mentioned this before as well. I think one of the real disappointments from the first series was around. I think I said this before too. It looked beautiful. It looked very much of the kind of, pretty much of that sort of Peter Jackson world in the main, but it just covered so much. And I think that, again, this is massive spoilers, of course, for anyone who hasn't seen it, but the whole thing towards the end of seeing how Mordor was created, and it's just this big like fire, and it's just suddenly there. It's just like it seems so cheap. Silly and cheap. Yeah, cheap, because it's like the whole point of this whole thing that Tolkien created for me was he created this entire history and this entire legendarium almost. Yeah. And within that, okay, I've read most of the unfinished. I think I've read the Unfinished Tales and the Silmarillion and the Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, and then a couple of bits and pieces of the others. And to me, the really great stories in there in terms of like, well, there's one great novel, which is Lord of the Rings, and there's one really quite good one, which is The Hobbit.
Yep.
A brilliant sort of children's book, essentially.
Yeah.
And they're the real stories which you can possibly tell on the screen. The other stuff, if you're going to make a story which can become a film or a series or etc., you really have to get it right, and you have to write it as that, and you can't just bung stuff in it from this whole vast legendarium, just stick it in there, because it won't work.
I would say, based on what you're saying, is if you're going to do that, do something different. As in, you've got this whole world mapped out by Tolkien. You don't need to show Galadriel or Sauron or the formation of Mordor. Yeah. You can go to any corner and you can see what the dwarfs are up to in Erebor, and you could just build a whole series about the how they were under the mountain in Erebor, or perhaps the building of Moria, for instance. I know I'm just plucking, so it doesn't have to relate to Lord of the Rings. It can just be in Middle Earth.
Yeah, but see, my counter to that would be, why would you do that? Well, because you have a right to do that. At the end of the day, there's all this work out there which Tolkien did, and it's best. At the end of the day, it's best read.
Yeah, I agree. But I don't mind if people want to make their own fiction or art, but I think you don't have to keep on nodding, and this is going to be my big thing,
right?
And my link to Star Wars as well. You don't have to keep nodding to the original material, and the original material being Lord of the Rings, be it the novel or Peter Jackson's films. Now, okay, so let me just dot around here about what keep on mentioning Star Wars. There's a thing. So for Rings of Power, exactly what you said about why do we need to throw everything into this like they did with Solo? Now the two other films we're going to talk about are the announcement of the Hunt for Gollum film being made by Andy Serkis, and the animated film War of the Rohirrim, which is actually coming out towards the end of this year. Now, we let's talk about these in a second, but let me just do this whole Star Wars comparison. So, for a start, Hunt for Gollum, I mean, is it going to be based on the first AP from the Lord of the Rings living card game? Because it's not the best adventure, I'll tell you that much.
I'll tell you what, though, it'll be a long one.
Yeah. No, but okay, we'll talk about what this actually means in a minute. But for me, it's like, the Hunt for Gollum. So that was the bit where they know that Gollum knows something about the hobbits and the ring, so they went searching for him. But this is just like they did with Star Wars with Rogue One. It's like, there's a line in the opening crawl of Star Wars that says that they had to go and look for the plant. All right, we'll build a film around it. I actually quite like Rogue One, but the statement stands. And then the other thing, we'll come back to Hunt for Gollum in a second, but War of the Rohirrim, which, if you're not aware, is an animation based around the Rohirrim. I think it's set 200 years before Lord of the Rings. And the trailer has just come out a couple of days ago. The trailer just came out for that. And I quite like the look of it. But then there's right towards the end of the trailer, when it's all about Rohan, and it does exactly actually what I was just saying that Rings of Power should do. It just tells a different story. Doesn't mention anything to do with the War of the Ring or anything. It's just, let's see what was going on in Rohan 200 years ago. I'm interested in that. And then right at the end of the trailer, there's someone collecting rings and going,
yeah.
And you just go, this is so the mistake they make with all these Star Wars spin-offs is like you go, well, here's a Star Wars spin-off about something on the completely other side of the galaxy. Oh, but there's a Jedi and a lightsaber, and we'll probably go to Tatooine.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. Yeah, that didn't. Obviously that was in the trailer. Didn't quite click with me, but yeah. So he's got this bag full of rings.
Yeah.
You can just imagine him just rocking back to Sarah and saying, "All right, Govs. All right, I've got 25.
Yeah.
It's got to be one of these." Pours them out on the desk. Obviously having no sense of if one of them is actually like the most powerful thing on the planet. So yeah, kind of ridiculous.
Drives me crazy. It really does. Oh, I've just got to say, before we move on to that, I must just say one more thing about Rings of Power, which is also winding me right up. So they obviously we don't know if this old man is a wizard. We believe he is from the series one.
I'd forgotten about him. Yeah,
it was kind of alluded to that it could well be Gandalf, but that already annoys me because Gandalf shouldn't be alive in this time. In the trailer, they seem to show another wizard who has an incredibly similar stance. He holds himself in a very Saruman style. Now, if it's Saruman and if it's Gandalf, I am done. I am checking out because once again, there's no need for them to be in this story and it goes against everything that Tolkien wrote. However, if it turns out that these are the blue wizards that were around in this time, then I will say, bravo, good, we have the blue wizards there, and that's an interesting, different take on it. But please, please don't make it be Saruman.
Yeah. But the blue wizards, they arrived with them, right? We looked into this before.
There's
from the Undying Lands or whatever it was, from the West.
There are two takes on where the blue wizards came from. There's one from a letter from Tolkien and one from the Unfinished Tales, but the generally accepted by Tolkien, his final version of it was that the blue wizards were around during the Second Age, and then they left to go to the east, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but they didn't turn up from some lightning bolt in the sky.
I don't
or whatever
know.
It was. I can't remember how did it turn up? Can you remember?
I have no idea.
No, it wasn't that memorable. So we've really gone to town on Rings of Power here, and this, I guess it was second series. Okay, we said we'll give it a chance. And see what happens.
I'm not rushing into it. I might wait for a couple of them to be released and then I'll watch some.
Oh, is it weekly releases?
So. I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
Right. Okay.
So War of the Rohirrim, I mentioned it briefly. It's an animation but set 200 years before the War of the Ring. It is produced, I believe, by Peter Jackson, and it's directed by a famous anime director. I don't know his name. I think he made Ghost in the Shell, and I'm almost certain he worked on Akira. He didn't direct Akira, but he worked on Akira in the animation department, I believe, or in the art department. So he has some kudos as a Japanese
Good
animator.
chops.
Yeah. It's getting a cinema release at the end of the year. I don't think it's going to do well. That's my prediction, because I just don't know if there's really the market for it. But I would say I am more excited by this than I am Rings of Power, purely because of some of the things I've said previously, that at least it feels like it's trying to do something different. It's not just doing a spin-off of Lord of the Rings. It's well, I guess it is a spin-off of Lord of the Rings, but it's just going, hey, do you want to know about the Rohirrim? Here's a cartoon. And I also have quite a soft spot for the Ralph Bakshi cartoon. Like I watched that a lot when I was a child. So there's something about seeing Lord of the Rings in animation which feels very close to my heart. And I just like the idea that there's something different out there. And it's not just, I mean, we love Weta Workshops, don't get me wrong. Love everything they did and what they created to create that world. But it's nice to see a different take. It's the same as when we look at the art on the cards. It's nice to see someone else's interpretation of the whole Lord of the Rings and Middle Earth in general. But who knows?
Yep. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I must. Maybe that's where. Yeah, that's a good point about the animation of Lord of the Rings, and that I was never that keen on it. I remember seeing it when I was young, and I remember feeling it was a bit drawn out, and I didn't get the bit where they showed, was it the orcs or something, who showed us kind of like this weird live action thing.
Yeah, that's right.
And the whole thing just didn't chime with me, and I thought, I don't know, the whole world of it just didn't grab me for whatever reason. Which, whatever, that's not, I was a kid, so it is what it is. But I guess for me, I've got a weird relationship with animation as an adult, which I guess is probably a bit of a silly stance. I don't have that much. I haven't watched that much of it. So obviously, when I was a kid, watched loads of stuff. I said before in this podcast, I'd watched some of the classic Disney stuff, which was amazing. And there are some animation I absolutely love. Like you mentioned, both Akira and Ghost in the Shell. And Akira is absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Ghost in the Shell, I think, is great. I don't think it's on the same level as something as Akira personally.
No,
but still, they're both really kind of in that particular form. You can do these really amazing high concept pieces, which is what they are. Especially Akira. Well, they both are actually really high concept, really stylized. Really stylized. Akira is massively stylized the way, and it looks unbelievable. Even now, Akira is just what a piece of work. But in terms of telling a story which is meant to be in this kind of historical, pseudo-historical context, I'm not sure if something like... I watched that trailer, and it just didn't evoke feelings of Lord of the Rings in me when I watched it. I'll be perfectly honest. I'll give it a chance. Like I say, I'm not going to go in closed-minded about it. I'll watch it and hopefully be nicely surprised. But yeah, I didn't get really excited. Think, oh yes, here's a story about the Rohirrim. So yeah, let's see how it pans out. Because I think the other thing as well is, we spoke earlier about Bernard Hill and what he brought to that character.
Yeah,
that's another, and I'm sure people have written essays and theses on this stuff. But the ability to have a performance of an animated character as opposed to a human being being shot on film. There is obviously a sort of discrepancy there. And don't get me wrong, obviously I'm sure there'll be people jumping up and down as I say that. Obviously there are a whole bunch of incredible characters in the animated world. But I think to be able to, I don't know, I've got a bit of, let's see, I'll be open-minded about it, but there is a bit of doubt in my mind as to, can you do that kind of thing in this particular specific world through the form of something like anime, which does have, whether maybe it's me, I don't know, but there's something about it when I see it, I just think of anime. I think of Japanese, fairly modern animation is what I think. And that's not what I think when I think of the pastoral, your countryside history of something like Lord of the Rings.
I think that's absolutely fair. But for me, this is why I'm quite excited for it.
Yeah, for precisely that reason.
Yeah, for precisely that reason.
Fair enough.
It's nice to see a different take. And
you know what? I agree with that, actually. I would say, give something else a go. Rings of Power has tried to be, let's do what Peter Jackson did and try to do what we can, and it hasn't really worked. But you're right. At least this is saying, let's have a completely different take on it and see where it goes. So from that point of view, I'm definitely much more looking forward to seeing that than Rings of Power.
So talking about what Peter Jackson did, he's back, baby. He's back, baby. So he has teamed up with Andy Serkis and Philippa Boyens for, an announcement of a new live-action film called The Hunt for Gollum.
Yeah, is that what it's called?
Could be. Could be Hunt for Gollum. Could be a Hunt for Gollum.
It's definitely not a Hunt for Gollum. There aren't many hunts for Gollum.
Hunt for a Gollum?
Hunt for the Gollum. So he's got called Gollum, and then when the DC get their hands on it, it'll be called the Gollum.
Yeah, absolutely. There isn't much news, apart from they are all very excited. That's what I seem to read a lot. They're all very excited to return to Middle-earth. I don't know what to think about this. I mean,
no idea.
I mentioned it earlier. It just seems like they've taken a tiny bit of the book. It wasn't even in the book. It was only in the Unfinished Tales that Gollum got captured and tortured. And they've taken that and they appear to be making a film of it. I mean, I presume, and it is a presumption, that is the story, that it's not the hunt for him prior to Lord of the Rings.
Does that mean that they have the rights to that stuff then? Because I thought they only had the rights to the appendices and Lord of the Rings.
The rights issue is in a massive blender at the moment. So I don't know the answer, but I do know it is in a blender. So
the lawyers have got involved.
Yeah.
Oh God!
The
Beast will be released.
Maybe it's a completely separate entity. They just made up a story, but which is, I guess fine. But also, I don't know. I just don't need to see more Gollum.
I know. I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's like you watch Lord of the Rings as a film or read it as a book. Well, no, let's take the film because that's what we're talking about here. And it's literally like a 60-second bit when he says, I looked everywhere for the creature Gollum.
Let's make a film of it.
And that is it, isn't it? And then he said 2 words, Baggin Shah, when he got tortured by...
Yeah.
And don't know what happened to him after that.
No.
But that's all you need to know. It sets off this mystery, but also what it really sets off is, geez Louise, the hobbits are in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely.
We need to do something. And so it sets the action in motion. Boom. That's why it's there. It's not fair to say, what they're thinking... Man, I wonder what Gandalf was up to when he looked everywhere for the creature Gollum. You imagine him sort of like looking under rocks and having a little chill out, smoking a bit of,
no, not under there.
Bit of hobbit weed or whatever it's called. Hobbit leaf, sorry. Leaf.
Aye, it's a weed.
yeah, exactly. No, that's not that, but yeah. How's the hunt for Gollum going, Gandalf? Well, Saruman of many colours. Gollum. Who's he? For Gollum. Oh, yeah. He's over there somewhere, I'm pretty sure. Aragorn?
Sure he'll show up.
Poor old Aragorn doing all the work.
Listening to rocks.
Yeah, Gandalf just disappearing and reappearing every now and then. How's it going? Haven't found him.
I've been flying on an eagle, man.
Oh yeah. Because how did you get the eagle? I told a moth to go and get him. Okay, all right. See you next time, Gandalf. Aragorn shaking his head, striding off.
Nice.
That might be a good film. The Cheech and Chong take on Lord of the Rings.
I'll tell you what.
I'd watch that.
I think there's a high chance that could get made. The way we're going.
Lord of the Smoke Rings. It's just
my days.
It's like, come on, Gandalf blows a whole ship or whatever.
Put a ship through it. Yeah,
that was skills. It's like that was the best one-upmanship of the whole thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's a pretty good smoke ring, Bilbo.
Yeah, check this out.
This. And just that little finger in his mouth. Look.
Yeah.
You get into the shape of a ship. Like, I like the way Bilbo's not jealous at all. He's like, this will be a night to remember.
Now I've seen that. Okay. Hunt for Gollum.
So I guess we don't know.
It might get made.
Yeah.
But I know they're all very excited.
Is it who made it? Was it Warner Bros? No. Is it Warner? Did they get the rights?
I don't know, but Warner have made this War of the Rohirrim. I know that.
Okay. All right. I must. Yeah, you're right. I bet the legalities, but the contractual stuff is mental.
No. Okay, so that's everything.
We might be excited. We might not be.
Yeah, I'm so far. I'm not.
Yeah. However, we probably both sound very negative. I think it's fair to say, though, we will still remain open-minded and hopefully be pleasantly surprised by the Rings of Power. Hopefully the Rohirrim thing will be what you're hoping for and what it could be in my mind, I guess. Yeah. And The Hunt for Gollum is something, a screwball comedy from like the zany 70s.
I mean, we can but dream. But I am actually quite hopeful that they're going to make every single AP into a feature film.
Okay, there could be some good ones.
Yeah. Okay, well, talking about APs, what a bridge. So the last bit of news we have to talk about is the re-release of the game is now complete. It's over. So
I don't know. I don't really know anything about. I know you just mentioned that to me a few days ago, but I don't know any details behind this.
No. Okay. So basically, well, you are aware, of course, that they reissued the game.
Yeah.
And you did know that they weren't going to release all of the cycles. It was only going to be a select few cycles. And it was kind of a bit unsure about which ones were going to be released. But now they have officially said that, well, yeah, as official as it gets. So the game lead designer has been on, I think, a podcast and stated, no, this is it. It's not been officially announced on print anywhere, but if he's saying no more's coming out, I think we can pretty safely say no more is coming out. So that means this is what has now been made available. So there's the new revised core set, which is the same as the core set that we know and love, but with 3 of every card at last. The Dark of Mirkwood, which is the extra 2 quests that were at some point released, I think, in some deluxe edition of the core set way back when that no one bought. That was released as a separate thing just at the time when the revised core set came out. And then there was 3 completely repackaged cycles, and that was Angmar Awakened, which is the 5th cycle from the original release. So just to remind everyone, in case you need reminding, so a cycle is made up of a deluxe box and then 6 APs. So actually it's 9 adventures in total. So a deluxe box always has 3 adventures, and then there are 6 APs that are released following that. And that makes up the full cycle. So
okay, so that one's for Lost Realm.
Yeah, so the Lost Realm was the deluxe box for that. So then the same way as we are currently in the Dwaradelv cycle on our main podcast. That was the Khazad-dûm box was the deluxe, and then the cycle itself is called Dwaradelv. So the 5th cycle was Angmar Awakened, which contained the Lost Realm, and then the 6 APs that followed. Sorry, did I say 5th or 6th? Well, it's the 5th. So and then they released the 6th, which was the Dream Chase cycle, and that was the deluxe box, the Grey Havens, and the 6 APs that followed. And then they jumped to the 8th cycle, which is Ered Mithrin, which was the deluxe box, the Wilds of the I can never say this word, Rovanian. The Wilds of the Rovanian, or the Wilds of Rovanian.
Nova. Can't help it, can you?
No, love it. Yeah. And the 6 that followed that. And then alongside those, they also reissued the Saga boxes, but not the Hobbit, so just for the Lord of the Rings.
Interesting, okay.
And that's now been concluded with, I think the final thing which was released is either the Ered Mithrin or The Return of the King. But basically, it is done. And you go, well, that's a shame. They only released like the core and these 3 cycles and the sagas. But actually, it's a hell of a lot of content. It's a hell of a lot of cards. So, yeah, I don't really have an opinion on it because it's just more of a fact that it is done. The only thing that it does raise, and it is constantly raising a question in my mind, is I know for a fact there is a lot of new players out there, and they have only come in through this re-release. And I receive emails saying, "Oh, are you going to, jump to the re-released material in the podcast because we would like to play along?" And it's still a discussion that myself and Em have, and we have still not decided. We will definitely be finishing Dwarrowdelf before we do anything else. We'll be right on it.
Yeah, we're halfway through. And that's a big old jump, though.
Yeah,
misses 2 cycles.
We would
right?
miss 2, and I'm not saying we would never go back to the 3rd and 4th ones, but it because I see so many people playing these re-released sets. There's part of me which goes, well, yeah, there is something to be said for, welcoming them into Late of the Rings. Now it's finished. It's just late enough.
What have they done about all the cards that you get, the player cards you get in those interim ones? Are they just not available?
They just don't exist. Well, they do exist, but just not for the new players, which is very sad. So, actually, that's not 100% true. So when the core set was re-released, they also released 4 starter decks. You may remember we talked about them on the podcast.
Yeah.
And these were, I think there was an Elvish one, there was a Dwarven, a Rohan, I think, and probably Gondor. If I had to guess what it was,
no eagles.
No eagles. Which actually, I've read this on the Reddit thread. People are pretty upset they don't get to play with the eagles, and I can understand why.
Your favorite? It's
I know. Although I haven't played with eagles for a long time, I need to go.
And no secrecy, I guess.
And no secrecy.
That's my favorite.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then again, I have no idea what the Angmar Awakens cards hold. So obviously we bought all of the sets.
Yeah.
But I haven't even. I make sure I don't look at the cards until I've got to that.
I agree.
Sort of cycle.
Yeah.
That's why it's because I don't want to. Well, first of all, I want to play the cards within the cycle, and then maybe if I go back later, I can mix and match or whatever from ones later on. But yeah, I like. It's nice to keep them secret and have a nice,
and
something
safe.
to look forward to. Yes, always. But yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I mean, did they ever say why they decided to do those ones in particular and not the others, or why they even? It just seems a bit odd to me. Is that did they sort of do it and think? And I guess they were going to see maybe it would have to reach a certain amount of sales maybe before they did all of them, or was that their plan all along? Or
I think this was the plan all along. When they first announced it, they said that they would not. Well, they said they would release some, but not all, and that was in the press release. That some are not, but not all of the cycles. And I think these ones are held on in high regard for sure. I know that fans of the game are clambering for more, of course. What always struck me as odd is they never released Mirkwood. It makes no sense that they didn't release that first cycle, because half of the cards already exist in the core set.
of course. Oh, so it was only for deluxe ones in the core set. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, so Hunt for Gollum
Doesn't exist. Hence the reason that they need to make a film.
But they're some of my favourite quests, I've got to say. Oh, I know we're only kind of, 1/5 of the way, 1/6 of the way through this whole thing, but from what we've played so far, because that's got, in fact, I've got the list here, haven't we? So the 6 in there, you had Hunt for Gollum,
Yeah.
Conflict at the Carrack,
Yeah, classic.
Journey to Rosgobel, Eagles, although you can't,
No.
we struggled with Eagles. For Hills of Emyn-Will. Oh, I have to say that again.
Yeah.
Now, that was one, I think you said that one divided opinion.
It does,
But
yeah.
I love that one. That's a very questy one, isn't it?
Yeah.
The Dead Marshes, and Return to Mirkwood. I really like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are 2 or 3 crackers in there, to be fair.
Yeah, but there's also some really good player cards.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? I'm trying to remember. Yeah, those early ones you get past the core set. Yes, that's right. Yeah. Well, you get all of those Rohan ones, which aren't in the core set. Maybe they're in. They're
probably
pack,
in. They're probably in the Rohan starter deck. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But what about all those? Yeah, okay. But all those lovely spirit cards.
Yeah.
I guess it's hard to tell about seeing the cards, but I guess Dwarrowdelf is basically ignored completely.
Yeah.
As is Against the Shadow. Is that the next one?
Yes. So that's
and Ringmaker, right? Yeah, I don't know enough about.
No, Against the Shadow. That's the Numenor one. Yeah, that's the epically difficult.
Oh, is it? Spoilers.
I don't. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Actually, I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah,
it's like
fair enough. Yeah.
But so basically, the
if it's
fact
brought
that
new players in, it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a good thing. It is a good thing, of course. So really, it's more. The news is it's over, guys. So enjoy what you have, and in a way, it's at least we can stop speculating. You know, this is
done.
We're done.
It is done. Isn't that a Frodo line?
Yeah.
Sorry.
So yeah, at least there's no more speculation to be had. And then now the only thing is for us to continue a discussion as we get to the end of this cycle. Like I say, we're obviously not going to stop doing Dwarrowdelf. So you can hear us talking about Dwarrowdelf for at least another 2-3 years.
No, yeah, we need to get through it, don't we? I wonder if we're churning them out so fast, maybe we can do them in parallel.
Nice idea.
Ringmaker. Well, yeah, we'll have to think you're right. As we approach the end of this cycle, let's have a good deep think about it.
Yeah, we'll have a proper discussion, not on air.
And I guess also there might be people listening who are kind of just playing through in not the natural order, but the previous existing order.
Oh, for sure.
So, yeah, might be sort of skipping ahead.
Yeah, but the argument with that would be that they would probably not resent us bringing in more listeners to move forward, as long as we would at some point go back, when we're in our 80s.
Yeah. I guess the other thing is, I think there's a part of me as well that, kind of was planning just to play through the whole thing in sequence as well. So if we're suddenly jumping forward, 3 cycles or whatever it is, skipping out 2 cycles, what does that mean as well? And also, the way I've organised my cards in the folders, goddammit. How am I going to manage with that? I mean, got to think about these things.
All good points. All good points.
I think that's a lower consideration. Yeah. Okay, no, but it's good to know. So yes, it sounds like it's final. It's done.
Yeah.
And like you say, it is what it is. And I guess so those ones are still in print now, are they?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
but none of the older ones are. They're just gone forever.
Long gone. They're long gone. And like I said, there's a lot of content. On paper, you go, oh, really? It's only the core set, those 3 cycles in the sagas? Yeah, that's a lot. That's going to take you a long time to play through.
How many cycles are there in total? There's 1, 2, 3, 4...
9, is it?
5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah. So that's 1/3.
Yeah. Yeah. Plus one of the sagas. Well, plus the main saga of all.
Yeah. So that's 10, essentially. I guess 11 if you count the Hobbit.
Yeah, but no, but the Hobbit wasn't included. But there is a saga box for the Fellowship, for 2 Towers, and Return of the King.
Oh, that's right.
And in the original release, each one of those was 2 deluxe boxes. So actually, for the release of the full Fellowship was 2 deluxe boxes, or deluxe shape anyway.
Yeah.
So actually,
I've got them here. 6. So yeah, for Black Riders, for Road Darkens, that's 6. So you get 6 adventures. So it's like a cycle.
Yeah.
And that's for the Fellowship. Then you got 2 for the 2 for each one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Because we both played the Hobbit one, haven't we?
Yeah.
And that was essentially like a cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Now we've got to think about when we squeeze that one in as well. Oh. Or if we... Oh, God, okay.
Don't make me go back to play The Hobbit.
You didn't enjoy it so much.
Not a fan.
Shall I do a solo episode on it? That'd be hilarious. I'll just tell a continuous list of mistakes which no one's calling me up on. I beat them all first time. It was easy.
Wonderful. Oh, dear. Okay, well, I don't know if we have much more to talk about on this, and we're not going to outstay our welcome. This really is a bonus episode of news that I would like to keep relatively short, so it's relatively easy for me to edit and get released sooner rather than later. But I will say that we are relatively close to being able to record again the next full episode for our next AP, The Long Dark.
The Long Dark, yes. Been playing that one. Pretty much ready to go. Yep.
So hopefully we will record that soon and we'll get that released as well. So, unless you have anything else to add?
No, nothing from me. I think I've said for a bonus episode. Yeah, I think we're... I've got lots of things, but no, let's leave it.
You keep them to yourself. Oh. Okay. With that, all it leaves me to say is thanks once again for listening. And until next time, which will hopefully be relatively soon, take care out there and goodbye.
Bye.